Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Real Money Talk podcast. In this show, we give you the real talk about money. We eliminate the fine print, we junk the jargon, and we explain how you can make smarter financial decisions. We're not millionaires, we're thousandaires, and we know you are too. So this show is for you. We want to talk about money because it affects everyone, rich and poor. And so money shouldn't only be the occupation of the 1%, but rather the 99%. Got a topic for us? Submit it on our website. And if you like the show, don't forget to like and subscribe.
The side hustle, a side gig, short-term contracts, freelance work, the extra work on top of your day-to-day that you do to make ends meet and follow your passion, all to live in today's modern economy. Is it worth the added stress? Can you actually make money? According to a study by the Angus Reid Institute, over 40% of millennials surveyed said they participated in this gig economy in the past 5 years. Many of the workers earned less than $50,000 a year, so they had to pick up extra jobs just to make ends meet. But 36% fell into white-collar occupations, including computer programming and graphic design, where there is enough money. So why are we side hustling? What's behind it? To answer that question, we put out a call on social media and to friends and family. Today on the show, we interviewed 3 professionals with wildly different side hustles to uncover what it's all about, the reason why people do it, and to give you, the listener, some helpful tips to either get started or to stay away. If you thought about it before, this show is for you. We interviewed Kevin, who buys used cars, fixes them up, and uses them for a year before selling them to break even and cover all his costs, including gas and car insurance. We called Liz, who did so well her side hustle became her full-time job, and she loves side hustling so much she started a whole new side hustle. Finally, we called Hernani, a nurse by trade, but with 3 other side hustles to express his creative side with a little extra money to boot. The interviews are short and back-to-back. Hyder and I will break it all down for you on the other side. Enjoy.
My name is Kevin Sandhu. My 9 to 5 is working at Canwise as a mortgage agent. My side hustle is a very unique side hustle. I would say it's not really income generating, but offsetting a cost for regular people. A lot of individuals have a car payment, and my side hustle is not making that car payment. What I do is pick up old cars, restore them, and sell and drive them for about a year or 2, and then sell it back for what I paid for it, including all the costs, licensing and fees. And sometimes in unique situation, if all goes well, make a little bit of a buck or 2 on top. I find my cars on Kijiji, Auto Trader, walking around in the areas when seeing cars with no license plates. How do I decide on how much I'm going to pay for a vehicle? Is very unique. It's all in my head, but what I'll do is I'll look up the year, make, model of the vehicle on Kijiji and Auto Trader and see what other individuals are selling their vehicles for and make a comparison, go back to the actual subject, the car that I'm looking to buy, find out what's wrong with it, see if I can handle it, what the cost will be, and always start low. How do I calculate my cost? I always annualize my costs. So I'm including obviously the cost of vehicle and repairs, but I'm also including tax, licensing. I'm even including the license plate and sticker, insurance, all that. You annualize it. Where I figure out the insurance part is very interesting. I go on to some online websites with their online quotes and brokers and simply plug in the information and get a rough estimate of exactly what the monthly cost will be. I don't know how my insurance company feels about me, but I could be on their radar list with that many vehicles switching within a year or 2. So, but there are no there are no penalties. They just simply give you a new monthly quote. As easy as that. I choose to do a second gig mainly due to passion. I believe you have to have some sort of passion when you're looking at a second gig in order for it to not feel like a job. But the reason why I do it, mainly passion and offsetting cost, it allows me and my dad to bond together and work on cars together. And at the same time, you're meeting a lot of people because you have people that look at this asset and feel like it's a diminishing asset and it's just an eyesore on their driveway. And I'm willing to take it away and restore it and make someone else's day a year later. My hesitations getting into this particular side hustle, there wasn't much hesitation going in. I mean, I wanted to get into hands-on building a car. There wasn't hesitation initially getting in, but when you are in it, there is a lot of roadblocks that come away. It's a huge learning experience, really testing your stress levels there. No hesitation at the beginning, but then there's a lot of hesitation a lot of hesitation in terms of wondering if you want to continue doing this or not. The hesitation is really asking when you initially go into any sort of side hustle, even a new job, you think everything's going to be great. Money's going to be pouring in, but then there are those tough and hard times. Don't get me wrong. There's no mechanic out there that knows 100% of every single vehicle in terms of how to repair it, troubleshooting, all that stuff. So there are times when you have to be prepared for a surprise. Give you a real life example. There was one time I was actually doing an engine swap on a car. So I had a car with a great body and another car with a horrible body but an excellent engine. So I tried to make them one perfect vehicle. And what ended up happening after 2 long weeks of working on these vehicles, I had no car actually. So I actually had to ask myself, what do I do from here? I just have 2 cars not running. My driveway looks like a junkyard. I'm knee deep into some money here. And what do I do next? And I think persistence, passion is what drives me through that hesitation. But it's going to come. It's going to come with any sort of side hustle. The end result were both cars were towed away to the junkyard, and I had to start from scratch with the third car. So that's what I mean in terms of hesitation. It's definitely going to be there, but you have to have that passion and persistence to be able to overcome it. Ironically enough, the dislike is the end result where you're selling the car. I don't like to convince people to buy something they do not want. So there's a lot of tire kickers. I mean, I'm using Kijiji, Auto Trader. Everyone's looking for a deal. You get a lot of lowball offers, a lot of calls, but the selling part is the part that I would say I dislike the most. But that's once you find that one buyer, then I tell myself I like selling because you see that roll of cash just in your hand. The most important piece of advice I would give to anyone adding a side hustle is passion. You definitely want to enjoy what you're doing. If I did not enjoy cars, I can guarantee you that I would not be doing this particular side hustle. So you definitely have to have that passion and enjoyment and not feel like it's really you hustling, ironically enough. One last piece of advice that I can possibly give here is, this is with anything you are trying to sell. When you make your money when you buy it. So make sure you're looking for that bargain at the beginning because that's where you're going to make your money. Selling it should be the easiest part.
Liz speaking. 3 years ago, my 9 to 5 was data analysis for a provincial agency, and I was running my side hustle on the side. So I was doing social media accounts for small businesses in Hamilton. After 3 years of running Shoutouts Hamilton, which was my first side hustle, I was able to quit my full-time job and run my social media marketing agency full-time. A few months into that, I got this itch to start another side hustle, so I started Ambitious Adulting, and that was a blog about financial literacy and how to be better with your money, which also grew into another job. So I now have a full-time job, which was originally my side hustle, and then my side hustle, Ambitious Adulting. I choose to work a second gig because I have a lot of creativity and a lot of energy, and I need to have constant stimulation and do different things throughout the day in order for me to feel creative and to feel fulfilled and to feel happy with all the work that I'm doing. I started Ambitious Adulting in 2016 when I bought my first house, and I started writing about the process. And at the beginning, it was more about the renovations that I was doing and all of the do-it-yourself projects that I was doing on my house. But I started to see that more and more people just wanted to know how I was able to afford my place because I was only 24 at the time. And they were always asking me how I was able to save so much and if I knew how to invest. And so I started writing about that. And Ambitious Adulting became almost like a mentorship program for me to share what I was doing and let people know how to save their money and how to be better at their finances. Ambitious Adulting then turned into a workshop platform. So I started doing workshops across Southern Ontario, I started doing public speaking. I made some guides, and I have a mentorship program that shows people how to be better with their money. And that all started from blogging on the side. I had a few hesitations with my first side hustle, shout out Hamilton, because I was scared that my work would find out and somehow feel offended that I had another job. But the more I thought about it, I really had a lot of extra time after work, and a lot of people have like pets or kids or hobbies or even a second job. And so I felt like there was no reason to be feeling guilty or ashamed for doing something on the side. And so that was my initial hesitation with my first side hustle. My second side hustle, I had a little bit of hesitation writing about money because I have a geography degree and I felt like I wasn't really qualified to be giving advice about finances. So I always had some hesitations, but at the end of the day, I was able to work over those roadblocks and just go for it. And it's been going well ever since. I love so many things about my side hustle, and one of the main things is just being able to connect with so many different people. Before, when I worked in government for 6 years, I was stuck in my office and didn't have a lot of interactions outside of work. And I'm a really social person, so being able to go to different cities and talk about my side hustles and just connect with lots of people has been really, really rewarding. There are some pitfalls to having a side hustle, and one of them is variable income. So I worked in government for 6 years and had extreme security. So a regular paycheck, I had benefits, and everything was good. And I let that all go to take this risk to run my own businesses. And it's been working so far, but sometimes some months are better than others. And so just being aware of that and finding a cash flow system that allows me to continue living my lifestyle has been a little bit of a challenge sometimes. I think the most important piece of advice, and it's so cliche and corny, but it's honestly just go for it. Because you can't learn unless you try, and you can just sit at home and research and try to do everything properly by making notes and reading everything about side hustling. But unless you actually jump in and try it, you're not going to evolve, and you're not going to know what to fix and what's working and what's not working. People can find me all over the internet. I'm really active on Instagram, and my handle is Ambitious Adulting. I'm also on Facebook with the same shout out Hamilton and Ambitious Adulting, but Instagram is definitely where you can connect with me. And for my social media work, you can find me at SO_HAMONT. Good luck to everyone who is curious to try a side hustle. There's a lot of supportive communities out there that can help you get going.
Hello, my name is Hernani Sagra. What do I do 9 to 5? Well, I work as a registered nurse at an emergency department. My side hustle, I'd say I have multiple side hustles. I work as a dancer, photographer, as well as an event coordinator. I used to work multiple gigs just because I enjoy it as my free time, and I mean, it does help to have extra money on the side as well. I got started with photography first. I did it as a hobby, and when I was kind of down and out trying to look for my full-time career as a nurse, photography was something that I enjoyed, and a friend of mine helped me with it. We started as a hobby, and then eventually people started liking my work and started hiring a second photographer for a company for weddings. I realized I didn't like that, and then I started my own business and started doing more portrait and creative work. As for working as an event coordinator, I got started with that because I enjoyed seeing the background work of a lot of things that I partook in. So I used to work as a dancer. I still do part-time from time to time whenever a gig comes up. But because I saw how fast I was so fascinated by it, I started interning with a lot of all these organizers. And then eventually people saw that I worked really well and I managed my time really well, and they started hiring me for it. So as for a dancer, I used to dance as a freestyler or a street dancer. Eventually I partook in a lot of these dance competitions. I got picked up by an agent. I started working a lot, and I did a few commercial and background dance. I did have some hesitations getting into all of working these gigs, primarily when I was younger, I did want to open up a dance studio, work as a dancer. But coming from like an immigrant kind of family, education was first and foremost. And I did enjoy nursing, and I did enjoy what happens in nursing, what the responsibilities and roles are. And so I went into the route of going into learning that. But I've always wanted to enjoy the creative side that I've always had. And the hesitation, I believe, came from the fact that it's a little bit scary to dive in fully without having a sort of plan that this will be your main source of income. So how I prepared for working as a photographer was my father bought me my first camera. It was a DSLR Canon P6i. I knew nothing about photography, but thank God for YouTube and other tutorials. And working as a dancer actually helped provide me the ability to meet photographers while I was doing an event. I would speak with them. I would understand and learn from them, and eventually intern under some of them, which gave me the ability to learn photography through the means of without actually having to go to school. And then from there, they taught me how to actually manage my time, business, speak with clientele, and the networking opportunities that it came with. From there, I used the money that I would ever make from these gigs to further invest into my business. So I didn't use much of my own money from nursing. Rather, I'd use the money that I would ever make from my business and just put it back into it. What I love about my side hustles, I would say it gives me the ability to be creative. I would be kind of my own boss, working as a nurse or like near 9 to 5. You're working under somebody. Great times if it's not a good team, and you kind of have to push through it and work through it. But with this, I'm flexible. I can meet new people, but also say no to certain clientele that would not make me feel good about what I'm doing for my business. So it gives me this ability of flexibility. I think that's what I love most about having these side hustles. I think the things that I dislike about sometimes having my side hustles is that it does become exhausting. Having the flexibility also means that you are flexible with your clientele, and you have to make sure that you have the dates lined up and the capability of providing that for your clientele as well as for yourself. And there are many weekends or many weeks and days that I would be consistently working. I think the most important thing that I can give someone as an advice, if they're ever thinking of getting or adding a side hustle, is this an opportunity for you that can excel in your own career? If not, is this something that's therapeutic for you and that provides you something that relieves a lot of the stress that you may already have in your lifetime? For some, it may be finances. For some, it's an opportunity to meet new people and express yourself in a different way. I think that would be the best advice I can give somebody. If people ever want to look for my work, I do have a website. It is hss.photography. You can also find me on Instagram, nanny.shoot. If there's anything else, you can also email me in any of those avenues. I would say, closing-wise, do focus on what you love to do, and usually that would carry you much more than focusing on trying to make a living out of it. The making the living out of it is the part that will come afterwards. A good friend of mine taught me it's called 3 Ps. If I was to ever take on a project or a client, I need to have at least 2 of these, and it's people, price, or project, and it's like you need to have at least 2. So if the people are great and the price is great, but the project isn't good, well, that's okay. You got paid well, you work well with people, but you don't need to put that project in your portfolio. And then vice versa with all the other 3, right? Thought that was like something that made it so much easier for me to say no. It's pretty interesting. Like a lot of people ask me, like, how do you do all of these things? And like, it's interesting, but I guess like for me, it's like the world will kind of work in its own way. And with all of the skills that I've kind of attributed to all of the other side hustles that I've done, it's actually made my manager trust me more. And now I have like a little bit more responsibility at work. So I'm meeting with like the VPs. I'm doing all of these things with them. I'm starting this organization. It's a lot of work, but it's like, to me, it's fun because it's just like, you have the ability now to make people or put people in in a situation that you can make some change, And I think that's what's important.
We want to thank all the side hustlers for joining us on the show. Hope you enjoyed them speaking about it. Hyder, what are your initial thoughts?
For me, the biggest takeaway was they kind of undersold how hard it is. At least I think side hustling is really hard. I've kind of tried to do it. I've had trouble balancing my time between work and wanting to come home and kind of just relax. These guys are taking a lot of initiative, and I feel like they should have really been... They kind of touched on it, but I would have really... Like, if I'm a side hustler and I'm making good money, I would be like, yo, I'm working my butt off. Appreciate me. Really sell that, and they didn't. I don't know.
I think, I have a side hustle and kids and a wife, and I make sure that to tell my clients I work Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, 2 hours a night, and that's my time for you. Otherwise, they start to ask too much. There's too many demands. We didn't get too involved into them. I suggest following them on social media if you want to find out more about them. But I don't know if they have kids or if they're married or anything like that. How much time they devote. One thing I noticed that the commonalities among them were that they all talked about having a passion for what they did, and they all like to connect and meet with new people. And so they were all able to sort of overcome any hesitation they had with time constraints or budget constraints just by sort of doing it. They interned, they tried it out, they were all doers, and they all recommended just going for it. And things like being your own boss and flexibility and having extra money were bonuses on top.
I don't know if I'm wrong in saying this, but if you're a side hustler, you kind of have to have that entrepreneurial spirit.
Yes. I wondered if they were all extroverts or introverts.
Yeah, learning how to be a photographer by following on YouTube and instructional videos on YouTube. Everything's out there. It's more just taking the initiative. So maybe I just need to take more initiative in my life. But no, what actually kind of perked my ears was when Liz was talking about her main job, finding out about her side hustle. I think that's interesting because I've had that. I remember at one point I had a job where they kind of flagged it from the beginning, like you're not kind of going to be side hustling because your full expectations are going to be towards work, which is something that varies dramatically by company. I've had at Ratehub, they've never said that. A lot of the times they encourage it.
I am encouraged in my side hustle endeavors.
But that would be another thing. Like, Tyler, in your past, did you have a more conventional 9-to-5 where they pushed you away from doing that, or would it ever stop you from doing that?
I've never had a 9-to-5 that pushed me away from it. We tried actually to get a guest on the show that only wanted to be on if she could be on anonymously, because her work was not okay with her doing a side hustle. I find that in the new job market, it's a lot to ask someone to not have a side hustle. And as her nanny pointed out, his side hustle has led him to have more opportunities at work. And my side hustle is essentially doing what I do at work. And it provides more creativity and opportunities, and I see different things work that I can apply in work. So why would an employer stop it? If it's affecting my work, I don't do any side hustle work at work, and I make sure that I don't, because I never want it to be a conflict of interest. But in today's modern economy and modern job market, where the salaries aren't as much and the cost of living is going up, for an employer to step in and say you're not allowed to do that, I don't know if that's fair. And the other thing I wanted to add actually is a few of them seem to say that, certainly Kevin, the car fellow, and the nurse her nanny, both said that it should relieve stress. It was a stress relief rather than adding any stress. And you're saying that my side hustle, I feel, just adds stress.
Yeah, I guess if you're passionate about it, because to be honest, all the people that you interviewed, Tyler, they're not, a lot of it wasn't conventional hustles. When I think of a side hustle, I think of maybe because it's what, like freelance writing, just because that's the space that I'm in.
Yeah.
But it's also, I automatically jump to Uber driver.
I know,
and you can't be passionate about being an Uber driver.
I had a conversation with Liz about this after her interview was done, and she actually said that being an Uber driver, yes, is a side hustle, but maybe not. I think it's kind of interesting to say because it's not so much putting yourself out there. You're sort of saying you're signing up for something that, there's a platform for you to use and people will find you. And so how much of a hustle is it actually, or is it just like a part-time job that you do?
Oh, that would have been, side hustle versus part-time job.
Yeah. And, the money is done automatically. Like it's probably deposited in the app and, direct deposited to your bank account and you can track it that way. So is a side hustle more like, well, you got to find the clients, you got to prove your worth to your clients, you got to do presentations, you got to show up with metrics and reports and say, this is how I'm improving your company or your business.
What interested me about Liz as well is the fact that her side hustle became so big that it became her main hustle.
Yeah.
That's just a huge accomplishment.
I think it's awesome. You think that I guess that's a side hustler's ultimate dream, is that you can turn your side hustle
except if you're an Uber driver.
Except if you're but you turn your side hustle into your career because, I mean, if your side hustle is your passion and you've overcome your hesitation and it's a stress reliever and now you're doing what you've always wanted to do, I find that that's like the ultimate goal. What's hilarious to me, maybe hilarious is the wrong word, is that she went out and started a new side hustle even though she had a profitable side hustle. So her side hustle became her full-time job, and then she started a side hustle in, Adulting 101 personal finance coaching, just because she saw a need. So maybe there's a genetic code for side hustlers.
I am missing that code for sure. The one thing I got from all those interviews is time management just becomes natural because they are passionate about those projects, or side hustling was a natural part of their career growth. In the case of Hernani, he needed to do a side hustle to support as he was building his career as a nurse. But the time management thing is also, I wish I had a peek into their brain in terms of how they manage their time and balance, their main responsibilities and their personal life. But yeah, that was really interesting.
I think that's a good way to wrap up the show. So if you want a deeper look into their personal lives, make sure to follow them on Instagram. Kevin doesn't have an Instagram, but
he's going to start a social media side hustle soon.
Yeah, look for a guy named Kevin that might try to buy your car, or if he's selling you a car. And yeah, go check him out. And if you do want to start a side hustle, I guess the key takeaway here is to just do it and go try.
This podcast has no trademark rights for Nike or just.
Don't forget to like, subscribe, comment, share with your friends. Thank you very, very much for listening, and we'll see you in a couple of weeks.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, that is it for us. Thanks for joining us, and tune in for our next podcast.
And now for the fine print.
The views expressed by guests are their own, and their appearance on the program does not imply an endorsement of them or any entity they represent. Views and opinions expressed by Ratehub employees are those of the employees and do not necessarily reflect the views of Ratehub Inc. or any of its sponsors or officials. This is for general use. We're not certified or licensed advisors.
Yeah, we just don't want to get sued.